Hello, DeMatha Nation. Welcome back to our 75th anniversary speaker series. My name is Connor Glowacki, current staff member here at DeMatha. I'm joined today by fellow staff member and 2011 DeMatha grad Ben Flary, who will help conduct today's interview with 2015 DeMatha grad and current sports reporter for the Baltimore Sun, Ryan McFadden. Ryan started his internship this past summer and is now a full-time sports reporter for the Sun, covering the Ravens, Terps, and other beats and teams. Ryan earned a master's degree in journalism from the University of Maryland after graduating from Iona College, where he was a sports editor and men's basketball beat writer for the student newspaper. And in 2014, Ryan founded a sports media website called Inside the Locker Room, which covered high school and college sports in the DMV area. Before starting his internship with the Sun, Ryan was a member of the 29th annual class of the Sports Journalism Institute for Minorities and Women, and in 2020 was selected by the Povich Center at Maryland to cover Super Bowl 54 in Miami. And with all that said, it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest and fellow DeMatha alumni, Ryan McFadden. Ryan, thanks for joining us here. Kind of get things started. Especially for you as a reporter, what has the past year been like trying to cover sports teams in the middle of a pandemic?
It's been a whirlwind, man. I feel like everything has happened so fast in a sense. I was going off the pandemic. I'm kind of glad I am in a situation where I'm entering the field full time, where things are easing up now. So like media, press boxes are full. I can able to tend to home games still. I still cover road games from home, but things starting to look a lot better. I just wish locker room access. I wish I'm able to experience that, but hopefully as I move forward, media can get back in the locker room. But yeah, everything has been happening so fast. That's what I'll say. These last few months have been crazy. I go from getting my master's at Maryland to being an intern at Baltimore Sun, and boom, I'm here full time covering the Baltimore Ravens and Terps. So yeah, just trying to take my time just to soak it all in, and yeah.
Well, yeah, you're killing it right now with the Baltimore Sun, and you probably get this question all the time. So what made you want to cover sports? What was it, an experience at DeMatha? Was it beforehand? What made you want to be a sports reporter?
All right, so I tell this funny story is because sophomore year at DeMatha, I tried out for the JV basketball team, and during suicides, I literally passed out on the floor on the court running suicides, and it was like at that moment I'm like, yeah, I can't. This sports thing is not for me. So as my junior year approached, my parents would get on me like, oh, I need to do something to look good on my college resume. And they mentioned like, Ryan, you like to write, so why don't you get to the student newspaper? I didn't think about it. I didn't think about sports. I said, okay, let me try it. And then obviously it gave me an opportunity to combine sports and writing, two of the things I love the most. And I just ran from it from there. And being in Mr. Carroll's journalism class just gave me that opportunity to take it off. And as I was at DeMatha writing for the student newspaper and also working on my website, I looked at it in a sense where it's like, man, I go to one of the top sports schools in the country. This is a perfect opportunity where you get to interview guys like Markelle Fultz in the cafeteria. So it was just from there. I just took that opportunity. But yeah, it all started with I passed out during JV tryouts. I said playing sports wasn't in my future. I still play pickup ball though. But like playing for a team, I said, nah, that's not it. But yeah, then I just put the newspaper and ran with it.
That's awesome, Ryan. Thanks again for joining us today. Now, kind of went through it a little bit earlier. Connor mentioned, right, that you interned with the Baltimore Sun over the summer, and then you were offered a full-time sports reporting gig there. What's it been like covering the Ravens and the Terps? And then maybe if you could talk about kind of a typical day for you at the Sun. What does that look like?
So covering the Ravens and the Terps is I would say it's night and day, because when you cover the Ravens, it's a lot more coverage they're doing. So it's a lot more writing. I'll be at games. I might write between maybe 3 to 5 articles a game. For Ravens, I just do. For Maryland, I just do a game. I do like a feature during at least a feature during the week. You got your game story on game day, and then the following morning I write takeaways. But yeah, it's for Ravens. There's just so much coverage, so much going on. Obviously, especially during like training camp in the early parts of the season where there was a lot of injuries going on. I was helping out with that. But yeah, that's one thing I would say about covering those two sports. I feel like I'm a little bit more laid back covering Maryland. That's more like that's my beat. Like I'm the only one in the Sun that's writing about Maryland athletics or Maryland men's basketball and football. They do have another reporter covering women's basketball. But yeah, I'm like that's kind of I kind of control that. Where at the Ravens, there's like it's me along with 3 other writers, and they do have a main beat guy for the Ravens. But yeah, Ravens a lot more fast paced, a lot more writing. Where Maryland, I'm kind of like chilling. I'm chilling a little bit. It's nothing like too crazy going on. I would say it's a lot less crazy games. Like if you've been watching the Ravens almost every week until the last 2 weeks, have just been you never know what's going to happen. So that makes my job kind of harder, but at the same time, you get to watch good football. But yeah, going to your other question about like my daily life, it's kind of unorthodox. It depends on the day. So let's say tomorrow, Maryland football has their media availability, so I'll go up there to that, talk to the players, talk to Michael Locksley at a press conference. And then there's days where I might go to practice. So like typically I will go to practice like for Ravens Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday. But yeah, let's say if there's no practice, nothing going on, I'm probably just working on a story or figuring out what's ideas. Like this week with the Ravens bye week now. I'm probably gonna start like prepping for the men's basketball season coming up and finding more stories to work on, finding storylines to prepare myself for the upcoming season. And then like obviously I have to get ready for the homecoming game against Indiana for Maryland football. And I'm writing a story leading up to that. So that's what I'm probably doing this week with the Ravens bye week. But yeah, a day, it depends on the day. Things change. So I won't say I have like a set schedule unless it's like Tuesdays when I go to Maryland football media availability.
So Ryan, are there any sports writers when you were growing up or currently sports writers or sports media personalities whose work you admired? We know Mark Maskey, DeMatha class of 86 or 96, I believe. We can't remember the specific year. Mark Maskey is also a fellow sports writer for the Washington Post. Have you been able to talk with him about kind of the career process, or just who are some media personalities that you've looked up to?
So when it comes to, I would say I look up to Michael Wilbon. He's one of them. He talked to University of Maryland, wow, 2 years ago, which is crazy to say that. And just hearing his story and just hearing how hard he worked in the industry and just reading some of the work he did with the Washington Post in the past. Then the other one, I look at David Aldridge, a fellow DeMatha alum. I look at that because it's like he made it this far in his career field and he came from the same high school I went to. So I look at that as a source of inspiration for me moving forward. Who's another person I read? Oh, Jesse Doherty from the Washington Post, who covers the Washington Nationals. I love his work and his coverage for the Washington with the Washington Nationals. Myron Fader, she's a features writer for the Ringer. I enjoy all the features she's write. Who is I'm just ramping up a list, but like Tyler Arthines, he writes for GQ. He does these crazy, really good feature stories on like all sorts of athletes, and that's kind of like where it's kind of like where I want to do down the road, like write features not only just one particular sport, but just all a range of athletes. So I look at like Myron Fader and Tyler Arthines as like inspirations, and I'll read them every once in a while. Tyler, his stories are pretty long, so it's like I have to take time out my day to like sit down and read it. And with sports, with the season going on, I really don't have that much time as I would like to, like, sit down and read. But yeah, there's just a few. Marcus Thompson from the Athletic. He works for Athletic Bay Area. He's a columnist. He does like writes about the Warriors, the 49ers, stuff like that. But yeah, those are just off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's great, Ryan. And kind of going back to, David Aldridge and, your DeMatha days, we mentioned earlier that you started a sports media website in 2014. So I guess that would have been your junior year, I guess, in high school.
Started senior.
Oh, senior. Okay.
Yeah, started senior.
And it was called Inside the Locker Room. Now, can you just tell us a bit about that? And does it still run today?
Yes, it still runs today. I do not write on it as much as I would like to because I got this Baltimore Sun gig going on. But yeah, I started in 2014 after I went to a journalism camp at the University of Maryland, and they brought on a lot of sports writers in the industry, and they talked about this idea of like standing out and getting as much work and much clip as you can as possible. So I said, well, what can I do outside of the DeMatha newspaper to, push more clips? Because like the DeMatha newspaper, I forgot, it was like I think it came out every month. So I wanted to do something in between that time. So I started this website called Inside Our Locker Room, and at the time it was geared towards it was just covering anything. And my main goal was, because I turned it into a club at DeMatha. I really wanted to push sports journalism. And I wanted to get a lot of my friends who were interested in sports journalism at the time. And it wasn't just at DeMatha. I was reaching out to Elizabeth Seton, Bishop McNamara, students from all over, the different WCAC schools, which I have familiarity with, just to provide an opportunity for us to get clips before we go into college. To show if they wanted to write for a student newspaper when they got to their school, or even me included, that hey, we got clips, here's clips right here, we've been doing the work. So yeah, and from there, after I left DeMatha, I kept going. I kept writing and writing to the point where it's I realized a lot of my coverage where people were viewing it was regarding high school and college sports. So I said, all right, I'm going to shift the focus into her. So instead of writing about everything, I decided to write about just that focus, high school and college sports in the DC area. So I would go to when I come home from college, go to DeMatha games, different DeMatha basketball, DeMatha football. I'll go to other high school sporting events in this area. And then I believe was at my sophomore year of college at Iona. I was just scrambling through the internet because I wanted to figure out how can I get credentials to a Maryland football game. So I just typed in Maryland credentials on YouTube, not on Google, my bad. And I found the form. So I submitted the form, submitted my website, and it gave me credentials for a couple of games. And from there, I started covering Maryland men's basketball games. I started covering Maryland football games. I think I covered one Maryland women's basketball game. I covered a couple of Georgetown men's basketball games. I went to the 2017 Big East tournament. I was able to cover 2 Washington Wizards games, and I believe 6 or 7 Mystics games. So I just kept writing, even when a lot of my friends broke apart and we all went to college, and they stopped writing for Inside. I kept going because I just loved it. When I was in my dorm at Iona, I would literally be on my laptop and watch the DeMatha Gonzaga games and the DeMatha Paul VI games when the little live stream DeMatha does. And I'll really write about the game from that. Or for example, I think there's a tournament in Myrtle Beach, a high school basketball tournament in Myrtle Beach or Delaware. And they had a live stream and St. John's was playing. I'll watch that and then I'll write a recap on that as well. Just to keep it going. And it was crazy because I was developing a following, which is wild, because it got to a point where I feel the people reading my stuff or following me on social media didn't realize that I was only 19, 20 years old at the time, which was pretty cool. But yeah, it was just something I started. Like I said, it was a club. I just wanted to get my workout. I wanted to help other kids, other DeMatha guys and other students who was in the WCAC who wanted to get into sports journalism and did not have an idea what to do or how to go about it. And I thought this was the perfect way to do that. And man, I'm proud of it because I look at that as like, if I didn't start that website, I don't know if I'll be in the position I am in today. Because it opened so many doors, because not only showed I was putting out clips, but it was showing that it was showing that I was dedicated and how much I love journalism.
Well, yeah, it's turned out really well for you, Ryan. We got a few more questions here, and you kind of answered these a little bit already, but I kind of want to ask you a two-part. You mentioned Mr. Carroll's journalism class from when you were a student here at DeMatha. So I guess kind of the first part is how do you look back at your DeMatha days, your favorite teachers, favorite classes that you had, and what would you tell a current DeMatha student right now who wants to do what you're doing in the future, wants to write about sports, write about something? What would you tell them to help get their foot in the industry, kind of like what you're doing right now?
Man, I enjoy my DeMatha days, especially like my junior, senior, when I got into that whole sports journalism phase. Kind of making my name myself, making a name for myself, like running around the hallways looking for football players and basketball players to interview for stories. But yeah, Mr. Carroll's was one of the few that introduced me to journalism, taking his class junior year. Paul Clark. I know he's DC sports fan like me. So that was one thing we had in common, but at the same time, he was my English teacher as well as my creative writing teacher. So he helped me so much as a writer as well. Mr. Ruffin, I was in his broadcast journalism class and helping him in all the games and doing like sideline reporting at the basketball games. And I helped out with like National Signing Day, interviewing like Coach Brooks and all the players who was getting signed at the time. So yeah, those are right there. And then going into the advice I would give is I would say one of the things I would say is for advice to younger students, like set a standard for yourself. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew who I wanted to be in this industry, and I also know where I want to go moving forward. And that idea has helped me angle my career the right way. And once you set that standard of this is where you want to go, then you understand the work it takes to get there, and you know how much work you have to put in. So I think that's the biggest key: set a standard for yourself, figure out where you want to go in this field, whether it's print, broadcast, or whatever. And have an idea of that early, because then you can get a head start. I look at it, especially going to Maryland. Everyone wants to do what you want to do, especially if you go to like a bigger school, especially a bigger journalism school like University of Maryland, where I did for grad school. There's a lot of talented people, so it's a competition. So just having that early, getting a head start and knowing what you want to do, that's key. And then basically, I would say just getting as much experience as possible. I've said it on here. Like, if there's anyone at DeMatha that's interested in journalism, you're at the perfect school to do it. You can't beat that. You can't beat going to a school where they have a talented football team, well, just talented sports in general, and some really good coaches. That's the perfect way to get that opportunity and those interviewing skills, talking to players, talking to like coaches. And it's more available. Like, you don't have to go with the wraparound of like talking to PR and stuff like that. Like, some of these coaches are teachers. You can just go to their office or go to their classroom before class starts to talk to them. And that's the perfect way to get started. Then like read a lot. It's a cliche thing that every sports writer will say to you, or anyone that's interested, is just read a lot, and find people you like to read and just follow their work and how they write certain things. I would be honest with you. I used to, when I was younger, I used to brush that off. I'd rather play video games than read. So, but as I got older, I realized when you do take that time to like read articles and stuff like that, it does play an impact and it does help you out. But yeah, those are like the biggest things. But overall, you just gotta set a standard for yourself and understand and figure out where you want to go. And once you set that standard, then you can start placing yourself in opportunities to help you get to where you want to be.
Awesome, Ryan. And I'll get to one more question before we conclude. I just want to say, man, you're a very impressive young man, and with just starting that inside your locker room and just the dedication you have to your craft. It's admirable. So it's been awesome. Kind of my last question is, you obviously came a long way so far in your young journalism career. Where do you see yourself maybe 5 or 10 years down the road? Like what's like your ultimate goal in your work?
I would say my ultimate goal, I want to get into like features writing where like where I'm not limited to one sport in particular. So I'm not limited to just Maryland men's basketball or Maryland football or Ravens, where I can just go around and interview, do stories on, let's say, one day I'm doing a story on Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Bucks. Then maybe a couple weeks later, I might be doing a feature on Simone Biles or Naomi Osaka. Those are the type of stories I want to like to tell, where I can just like maybe travel around, or like let's say go to a Super Bowl and do features throughout the week on the different players. And just I love the human interest side of athletes. I love knowing about them outside of what they do as a profession. That they have, like, as we have seen over these recent years, there's so much about them. There's so much about them. They have incredible stories to tell that does not include how many points they average a game or how many games they've won. And those are the type of stories I like to tell. So I'll say in the future, that's what I'd love to do. I'd like to be a features writer where I'm telling stories about all kinds of athletes and just getting to that personal side and showing readers that there's more to them than what you see on television.
Well, Ryan, DeMatha, we're proud of you, the work that you're putting in, man. Continue to do some good work this NFL season with the Ravens and with the Terps and everything. And thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your insight into where you got to where you are today. And if you're on campus, come by and say hi sometime.
I definitely will. Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
No problem.
Have a good one.
You too.